Okay. All right. Well, let's start. We don't want to, for those who are on time, we don't want to hold hold things up. Anyway, today we're going to talk about mindful observation. You say, okay, what the hell is that? I've been asked to look at the emotion and fear as it relates to mindfulness. And research is a wonderful thing because it always, for me, research takes me in so many different places. And where I have to be, I have to rein myself back in. It's sort of like everything else. You're interested in so many different things, and you start digging down a few holes, and that's interesting. And then, oh, there's something over here. I do that squirrel all the time. So I did a little bit of that today with my research, and I was particularly happy where it took me. It took me to the idea of mindful observation. And what makes this different than some of the other Facebook Live presentations that I've done is this, whoa, there's the therapy cat. He almost knocked over the phone. I sort of like having little kids again, that as soon as you get on the phone, they need everything. It's exactly the same thing. This little guy he's just a monkey. Anyway, mindful observation is being able to identify the various emotions. The emotions, so there's the emotions, the thoughts, the urges, the sensations, and some of the other that are not as easily categorized. That it's these kinds of things that go through your mind constantly. So right now, one of the things that's going through my mind, and to be absolutely honest, is that this is the first time that I've done a Facebook Live where there hasn't been a very quick gathering of people. And so I am doing a lot of processing while I'm trying to conduct this session, and it's not working. It's not working for me, and it's probably not working for you either. So I'm going to have to manage my crazy zoo mind space. You can only imagine, like in our heads, we have, we do have thoughts, we have emotions, we have urges, we have sensations, we have all kinds of things swirling around. And, it's a little bit like an alphabet soup. And so it's often not surprising that we get muddled in our thinking. So this session is going to be a little bit briefer, but it is going to be a tool session. I'm going to give you a tool to think about and to help you when you get into a spot where you're doing a lot of muddling, and how to put some order to that, intellectual chaos that's going on. The screen just kind of went greeny. Odd. Anyway, so with that, and fear is one of the things that we'll be talking about, but how I link fear to this emotional labeling is that fear often takes over our thought process. And one of the tools in which to help manage the fear, because fear is actually just future-based stuff that isn't necessarily going to happen. It's not necessarily true, and we know that, but it's a very gripping emotion that can immobilize us, can terrify us, makes your heart pound, makes your armpits sweat, makes your forehead sweat, and sometimes it's just not a pretty thing. If you happen to have a dangerous situation, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to have. But in the course of a regular day, there is rarely occasion to let your fear go full blown, if you know what I mean. All right, so let's start with how do you access this tool? I'm going to back up a little bit, sorry. I'm going to talk to you about the labels. And these labels are just my labels. You can use them, you can create your own labels. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that you're just able to label some emotions. So thoughts. Thoughts are a string of words that pass through your mind. Like, you know, I can't do this. I'm out of my league. I can't operate that. I can't do that presentation. I'm, you know, blah. Those are thoughts where you're telling yourself something. Sensations is when when you're doing a Facebook Live and you have a need to scratch, because those are urges. Sometimes you have an urge to have a snack, grab a drink. These are urges. These are things that are impulses that you're doing. So we've got thoughts that are strings of words that that you put together, and it creates some direction for you. Sensations are, you know, tingling in your body, or discomfort, or aching, any of those kinds of cramping, any of those kinds of physical sensation. And an emotion really is, you know, is sort of all of the things we've just talked about, but they can be identified as fear, anger, disappointment, sadness, happiness, love. They, you know, emotions are so complex, and they're often their origin is based in something else. But for the sake of labeling, we're going to talk about sensations, thoughts, urges, emotions, and then we're going to have a broad category of, I don't know what this fits into. Right? If something is happening to you and you don't know what it fits into. Now, the tool, hi Gina, the tool part of this whole process is what I would like you to do is I would like you, and let's do this live. Let's you know, we're doing a tool evening, and it's going to be hard for you, Gina, because I just described all the different components, and maybe we won't do it live because we don't have a big enough group right now. But when you are in meditation, do any of you meditate? Just give me a thumbs up, a heart, or whatever. If you meditate, if you do any meditating, even if it's just for like a minute or two, like just sort of slowing yourself down, calming your mind. No meditation? Yes? Yes? You can just, you know, if to say yes and no, you can just, yay! That's exactly it. That's exactly, just hit those little like buttons or a little heart or whatever, just to let me know what you're up to. So when you're in the process of a meditation, thank you for the heart. Love the hearts. You start out with, so you're meditating. There's a number of different ways that I meditate. Hi, Barb. One of the ways in which I meditate is I listen to my breath. Sometimes that's just the easiest way to do it. I've been doing some guided meditations lately with Louise Hayes, just some of the YouTube. Louise Hayes, here comes the therapy cat. He's coming up to help out. Okay, all right. There he is. Okay, so you're either laying down or you're sitting up. You're in. Hey, Barb says hi, Wiley. Well, yeah, I've got to cut his nails. That's apparent. So you're in your spot, and let's say you're gonna meditate for 10 minutes, and you set your timer. I always set a timer, so if I'm not ready to be done, I just carry on. But I need to manage. I need to manage my thought processes. So when you are in that state, there are things that happen that come into your mind all the time. Everybody has that. The Dalai Lama probably has it. Maybe not. But anyway. And the labeling is when these thoughts, emotions, urges, sensations, or come into your mind while you're meditating. And this is the practicing part, that you'll be able to do it in everyday kinds of things when you're abused by emotion or a thought that comes into your head that just takes your stomach and puts it into a knot. I know we all have those. And so this is the practice part, that if you can do this every day for 5 days, do 10 minutes of meditating, the meditation of your choice, whether it is guided or it is chanting or it is breath type meditation. So as you're going through this and going through the process and something comes in your mind, I've got to pick up butter today. Label that. Oh, a thought has joined us. Thank you. And you let it go. There's no judgment. It's an observation. So when you are, and then you can bring yourself back. And you do it very gently. No judgment involved in this labeling process. It's not an exercise of saying, oh, great, I've got 10 minutes and, 9 of those were trying to subdue urges to have a snack. That's not the point. The point is to recognize what is coming into your consciousness, labeling it, and then just letting it go. It's okay. It's all right. The idea is that many of these things, thoughts and emotions, that thoughts and emotions are the two killer ones, because they are the ones that create, those autonomic negative thoughts, those ants. Remember we talked about that? A lot of our previous sessions, we've talked about how we have these intrusive thoughts. Well, this is a tool to teach you how to deal with those intrusive thoughts. And it's by labeling them, and just kind of getting, how does that feel? Did that just kind of take your stomach for a little dip? Ooh, thank you for coming. Goodbye now. And then go back to your breathing. See what else pops up. And when you take the judgment and you take the worry and the trying to control everything out of it, it's a very different process. Does that make sense? Can you let me know if I've explained that in a way that makes sense to you? We're going to do a little bit of practicing, and in the thanks, Gina. In the group board, what I've got is I'm working with a book called, of course it's backwards, the Practicing Happiness Workbook. I've read that through a couple times, and I'll put the link to that in the group. But I've also put a couple documents in the group. One of them, and they're both. One of them is directly from the book. I took a snapshot in Evernote, and which really shows. Okay, I think I printed that off there. Yeah, there it is. I printed these guys off. It really describes the various emotional categories and the feelings and the typical thoughts that go with it and the sensations. and the urges that go with it. It's a really great reference sheet, and I want to make sure, you know, that I reference that it's Ruth Bear, that the author of this book, and so there's 2 files in the membership area. They will only ever be in the membership area. Any of the support documents, they're not publicly posted, and so if anybody is watching the Facebook Live video, if they're watching it after the fact or live, they must be part of the group to be able to access any of those documentations. So it's just like a chart like this where it just breaks it out, and it just helps with the labeling idea. So let's do a little bit of practice just for a minute. Are you up for that? Are you willing to practice just so we get the idea of what these emotions, like how to label them? Give me a little thumbs up. Yay, Jean. Okay, you're a sport. You're a sport. Barbara, you up for it? You can give me a little high five, or I'm just finding in my book where that is. That was a really great, there we are, mindful observations. Okay, so tell me, so thinking, there's thoughts, emotions, urges, sensations, and those are the categories that we're going to look at. So are you ready with your typing fingers? You all right? Okay. So what is it if you hear in your head, why is he being so rude? I can see your post, Barb. Yep, thank you. Why is he being so rude? What is, just put T for thoughts, E for emotions, U for urges, S for sensations, or H for What would you say that if in your mind, and you're meditating, and you think, why is he being so rude? What is that? What is that? How can we label what that is in your mind? Any thoughts? Emotions, okay. That actually, it's a thought. It's a thought because you're thinking something. Let me go to an E for you. Here's an easy one. That so you're meditating, and all of a sudden your stomach is kind of getting into knots, and you've got this. You're in your 10-minute meditation. Your stomach is all of a sudden you've got a feeling of anxiety coming over you. How would you label that? Yes, it certainly is an observation. And it's also, you are observing an emotion that you're feeling. There's some anxiety. That's the idea of this chart that I have that actually describes, for the emotions, it describes some of the feelings that you have. Oh, yes, thank you. All right, let's try another one. You're in the process of meditating, and your nose is so itchy. You can't concentrate because you're just having like a major allergy kind of thing. What is that? A thought, emotion, an urge, a sensation, or a Thanks, Barb. That's a for you. The the nose being itchy is like your feet being itchy, is like tingling. Those are sensations. You're feeling some sensations. Does that make sense, Gina? That it's but is a great thing. You're experiencing something. And so, as I said earlier, the labels don't really matter. It's the idea that when you are in no, it's a different concept, Gina, and it is no problem, Barb. That's why it's so much easier when we can talk back and forward. So and once you get the hang of it, and that's why I'm doing this, is not to try to make anyone feel like they're off tonight or anything like that, but it's just to understand that thoughts are like a string of words that they pass through your mind. So thoughts are things like, oh, I just can't seem to get this. And so you're doing this while you're meditating, is that, this is really dumb. I don't know why I'm meditating. I'm spending all my time trying to bring my thoughts back. Those are thoughts. They're just things going through they're visiting. They're just sashaying through. Emotions, on the other hand, they are strong emotions. Sometimes they're a little weaker, but they're very often where when you're having a quiet moment, or you're moving along, and all of a sudden you're kind of gripped with something that I know, Gina, you probably experienced, because you were talking about fear, and what I mentioned earlier, this whole idea of talking about various tools in mindfulness is so that we can okay. Barbara's saying, having a very ill husband who has very poor filters has allowed me to separate what are thoughts, and I keep the emotions separate from those. School of Hard Knocks. Yeah. I know. Yeah. And when Brock was very ill as well, I experienced the same thing, Barb, that, there's an intolerance for social conventions, it seems. And I can relate to that, where you have to put the emotions into a whole different category, because they're raw. God, they're raw, and they're not intended to be hurtful. They're just their anger and their sadness and their everything rolled up in one thing. And yeah, I can relate. I can relate to that. But going back to the emotions. So the emotions are, when, and what I was saying, Gina, with prior to last week, you probably had times where you were you were managing your mindset, and then all of a sudden there was I suspect like a fear or an anxiety would grip you, and that usually there's physical symptoms, there's physical activity in your body for emotions. And very often, if it's fear, it is things like your heart racing, or feeling very jittery, or not able to concentrate. So that's the purpose of labeling these various states that we have, so that we can separate ourselves from them, because there's two basic emotions, two primary emotions: love and fear. Those, when they all boil down, when they're all synthesized down, there's two basic emotions. And fear keeps us safe. That's that reptilian brain. And love is where we thrive. And I read a great quote, is that we are constantly in a dance with love and fear. And if you want to have a happy life, you as happiness better take the leading role, or it will be very difficult. So some people live in fear all the time. But most of us, we have our fair share of fear, and our fair share of, some people have a tremendous amount of anger. And I've known, within my family of origin, there was, my father had an angry stage to him, and it was verbal anger. He wasn't, he didn't lash out or do anything, he was able to manage it that way. But the tone and the volume wasn't so good. And hi, Ruth. And so any of those strong emotions, now the positive emotions, it's not something we want to control because it feels good. It feels good to everybody around us. So when you're feeling happy and when you're feeling joyful and when you're feeling content, there's nothing to manage. You just, luxuriate in it, marinate in it. I love the idea of marinating in that. But some of the stronger negative emotions, the anger and the fear and the jealousy and the rage and all of those kinds of emotions that do us physical damage, we want to manage them. So the idea of the labels is to be able to identify what it is you're experiencing. So let's think of an urge. Let's think of let's say you're meditating and you just have a huge temptation to quit. Quit the meditation. I'm done with this. That's an urge. That's something that comes out of the blue. It's an impulse. Think of urges as impulses. Hi, Elaine. And sensations are physical sensations that try to distract you from being in a meditative state. And anything that's going on that you don't know is a But if you have a look, when I mentioned earlier, if you have a look at the 2 documents that I put in the group, if you're part of the group, they do have a breakdown of these various emotions and urges and thoughts, just so that as you are practicing your meditation, one of the things we're doing tonight, Ruth and Elaine, is we're talking about tools of mindfulness. And I'll be adding that once a month. I'm going to be doing tools of mindfulness so that we can actually practice doing different kinds of activities that will help us be in a mindful state. So tonight, when you go to bed, if you have an opportunity to even do 5 minutes of breathing deeply, or hi Sue, whatever type of meditation you do, I would like you to be mindful. A little urge there, scratch my nose. Be mindful of the experiences that you're having in your head. I wanted to say thoughts, but they're not all thoughts. Sometimes they are, they are emotions that will come in. Impatience. You're like, oh God, it must be an hour. I feel like I've been here an hour and you've been there 2 minutes. That impatience idea, that's, that's an emotion. Okay. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye. And you bring your mind back to your breathing, if that's what you're doing. And last night I was identifying how many places. So, I did just a 10-minute one because I wanted to journal after. I wanted to get an idea of the frequency of where I would go. And I had a lot of urges, like intrusive thoughts, like, oh, I could use a cookie. breathing. My feet are cold. Thank you. Thank you for coming by. That was another urge or a sensation. They are distractors, and it brings you back. So as you get used to, journaling about your distractions through thoughts, emotions, urges, sensations, and you can, so that's when you're being quiet. And the application is when you're in real life. And, we talk continually about taking a distance. So when you're experiencing something, take a little moment to think it through. And that's going to help you identify what it is you're thinking through. So you get a strong anxiety symptoms, like, oh, anxiety's come to visit. Anxiety's here. All right. These are just emotions and thoughts and urges. They're not real. They're not anything. They're travelers. They're visiting. And that's what I would like you to practice, if you will. Are you with me on that? Do you get it? Give me a thumbs up or something if it's making sense. We're at the half hour, and I don't want to take much more of your time, but I do know that this was a very different approach tonight, and I would like your feedback about the idea of incorporating the concept of tools into our approach. Okay, all right. I just think, it's one thing to talk about. Oh, thank you. One thing to talk about these emotions, but it's another thing to actually have tools to practice them. And I have so many amazing tools that I work with all the time in my coaching practice, and that is part of my upcoming book, that I wanted to start sharing some of those with you. And keep in mind that, if any of this information has been helpful, or someone who might, someone who might benefit from that, please encourage them to join our group. Our group is at 61 people. We're slowly getting a little bit better. I know that the engagement changes when we get over 100. I'm very keen. Sue says her mind won't shut down. She has high adrenaline levels. Well, the mindfulness will not cure that, but it'll help with that. It certainly, I used to have debilitating anxiety attacks. And Barb, I think you're already on that group, the Mindfulness in Everyday Living in the Facebook group, because there are the documents there anytime. And I've been putting a few documents up, and I will continue to put different documents up. And I also will put links to, I always put the links to the books that I'm using. Hi, Olga. That so that way you can see what I'm referencing. I also don't want to take ownership of something that is not rightfully mine. That there's some wonderful, wonderful material out there. So please encourage people to share with the group. Come join our group, and the benefits are getting lots of good material and templates and different things like that I'm working on. The other thing is that I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm doing Children in Mindfulness Month. That I was having a nice chat with my oncologist this week. I was going in for a checkup, and everything is good. I'm coming up to 4 years. Yay! Anyway, she has a little guy. And I was talking about some of the work that I've been doing with Caleb in terms of mindfulness and teaching him how to listen carefully to the birds. Actually, I got distracted. That's how I had to go and have a walk today with the big dog, because thanks Barb, because I was doing some research, and I was sitting in the living room, and the birds were chirping. It was like they're saying, "Come on, it's spring. Come on outside." So I had to go put socks on and take the big dog out and commune with nature for a short while. So anyway, if you have any confusion about or ongoing confusion about what we talked about tonight, please don't hesitate to put on the wall in the group. I have changed the settings so that all your comments have to be vetted by me, just because I want to make sure that we don't have anybody that would offend the sensibilities of the group. But love to hear your questions, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. But with that, that's our first tool presentation. And what I'd like to do next week is talk about judgment in our thought process and how to label that, and to, this will be like part 2 of, because I think judgment is a nasty little thing that we do to ourselves on a regular basis. So, any questions anybody has? Is there anything that I can answer while we're here as a group? No? Okay. Well, if you think of anything after, because I know it's a very big concept to think about in a very short period of time, and I kind of pulled the tool application. I've been thinking about how to structure our time together to make sure that it serves a purpose and serves you well for spending time with me. All right, so I look forward to next week, and we will talk about judgment thoughts. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Have a great Wednesday, Gina. Bye for now.